Thanks everyone for joining me for another travel conversation. I'm excited to chat with Stacey today, and she recently returned from Ireland. She has several books, but welcome, Stacey.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for
you
having
tell
me.
what?
I said thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I read a little bit about your background, and it's been quite a journey for you. You know, writing wasn't apparently your first kind of thing, and the
No,
books. So take
not
us
even my
back.
second.
Take us back to kind of a little bit of what got you into writing or how that journey, where you ended up started writing books.
I guess I'm a reader. Every writer is a reader, I think. I think that somebody that was kind of maybe destined to be a writer as well kind of starts forming their own stories in their head, even if it's like because of a book they're reading, maybe like, oh, well, I wish this happened and that kind of thing. So, I've always had that imagination. I did not have a background in literature or anything. I was a criminal justice major and a police officer. But then I was a Marine Corps wife and I didn't work for years. I just, had children and took care of them and moved a lot. But there became a lot of material from living in two foreign countries and
Oh wow.
um, just traveling around the country and things like that. That kind of somebody with, I think, an imagination. I think that kind of feeds it. Um, and then my son, my last child, I have five, was diagnosed with autism. So I remember, thinking when he was a little bit older, he was like 4 or 5 years old. My husband retired, started going back to school to start a whole new journey in his life. And I remember thinking, I thought I would be back to work by now.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't about the money, but it was about a purpose,
Right.
something
Oh
for
yeah.
myself. Because I had just been in that caregiver and military wife life for so long. And then it was gone. We weren't near a military base. I didn't have the wife structure that we normally had. And I thought, if I don't have something that's mine, I'm going to go nuts.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of that woman in Beetlejuice when she snaps and says, if you don't let me gut this house out and make it my own, I'm going to go insane. I'm going to take you with me.
Yeah.
I love that character. But, it was like my husband starting this whole new career and education and all this stuff. And all I'm doing is driving kids around. And I never begrudged that. I love being a
Oh
mother.
yeah.
Would not trade that time in my life for anything. But I thought, I can't work. My son had all these therapies. He was a full-time job, and I absolutely loved the job, but there was nothing personally for me that didn't involve me taking care of somebody else. And I just felt like I was disappearing. And so I had this story in my head ever since a trip to Ireland that we had taken while we were living in the Middle East.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy that laptop. I'm going to buy a laptop.
Yeah, there you go.
To write that frigging book, because even if nobody ever reads it and it's trash and it's like, I've been thinking about this story at bedtime or whenever, quiet moments. I've been thinking about this story for 4 years because I went to this one little town that just ignited something, that was the spark. And I thought about that little town and then just started forming these ideas about like what it was like to live there and not be a tourist, and that kind of thing. And so it started from that trip. And I thought, I'm going to write the book. I'm going to do it. And so I started writing during my son's therapies. I would drop him off. He had 2.5-hour therapies. He had 7 therapies a week.
Oh wow.
And go to the library and go in one of the quiet rooms, because they had quiet rooms for college kids. And I would go to the library and I would hit the gas and I would write the whole time. And
Wow.
I wrote my first 2 books back to back without any kind of publishing or anything. I just did it because this was my time to kind of escape into this world, escape into Ireland, and escape into these characters that I'd thought about and all that kind of thing. And I didn't even tell my husband at first,
Oh,
because
you
it was,
didn't? Yeah.
to be someone that's not in the arts at
Right.
all, to all of a sudden write a book, you feel very vulnerable. Like anybody that knows anything about books or anybody that reads a lot. My husband does read a lot. We both do. But you're just so, it's a vulnerable place to be in, to let somebody into your head.
Oh, definitely.
And so I finally told him, and he was so excited. He was like, how far are you? And I said, well, I'm like about 300 pages in. And he was like, what? So he's like, so you're almost done with the first draft. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I can't believe you didn't tell me. Because he's like, can you do this while George is at therapy? Can you? No, I can't. This is my time, and I didn't tell him,
Right, right. Yeah.
probably got a boyfriend. No, it was like, and then I finally was like, he's wondering, what I'm doing and why am I on a computer all the time and everything. It's like, why are you keeping this from him? You don't keep anything from him.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
was such a vulnerable thing,
Yes. Oh, exactly.
because I'm not a writer. I've never been a writer. So all of a sudden you're going to write a book. So, but I love it. I've written 14 books,
I
and
know.
I'm just as insecure with every one of them. And it's taken me to places in my head that I've been to before, or that I haven't been to, that I've had to research all these, because the setting is very important to me. And it's always almost like a character in the book.
Oh, beautiful.
So
Wow.
I take maps out, like I did one where I had not been there. So I had maps out all over the table, and my husband and I are looking at these, and I'm like, okay, well, there's this river estuary here. I think this is a good place for me to put this monastery, this
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
mission, and things like that. Like we had the Amazon River basin out and it's like, by the end of it, I almost felt like I'd been there, because I'm researching the animals. I'm researching plant life, and things that can kill you in the Amazon, and what it's like in the city,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the people and the food. And I'm pulling up menus. I'm actually finding restaurants on Google Maps and pulling up their menus,
Wow.
because the food, of course, it's
Well,
always
yeah, the food is
right.
important. Yeah.
I mean, for me. So but yeah, so the setting was always very important to me, which comes back to kind of what you do is the travel blog. Is you can't always go everywhere, but you can read and feel like you've been there. And
Right.
sometimes that's a fantasy world, it might be where there's, fae, and or a world where there's whatever, you're in a medieval castle, but in my case, most of the books are contemporary Ireland. So but I've had one in Italy, to a little town that my husband and I went to when we were engaged.
Wow.
Um, and then, 20 some years later, I'm reading, trying to remember, what this town looked like and everything. And then I did a couple that were in Brazil because, of the way the storyline went with one of the brothers ended up doing a medical mission. So I had to research Brazil. And I'm thinking, why didn't you pick something easier? Because
Yeah.
I'm Portuguese, and I'm like, but yeah, so but it's been a beautiful journey, and I thought, I love these books. And if nobody, I mean, I get hurt if I see a bad review or whatever, but that's not my business what somebody thinks of my book. But it's like, even if it had not taken off, to the extent that it did, I'm so grateful for it, because at a time in my life when I felt, again, like I was
Yeah.
disappearing, I built this for myself.
Right.
And so, and then, then the traveling started, because I painted apparently such a fun picture of Ireland that I would have readers contact me and say, have you ever thought about leading a tour? I
Oh,
would totally
wow.
know, and it's like, mean, sure, you
Yeah,
know,
you're like, okay.
don't threaten me with a good time. But, and there's something, there's a lot of responsibility comes with being um, the person that's leading the tour. I have a driver, thank God. And I have a tour company handling everything. It's very customized, but, and they were very receptive to exactly what I wanted. But I have somebody behind the wheel for starters who was amazing. And then I also have someone who's just so knowledgeable about their own country that they like added depth to it that I'm not going to be able to
Right,
give.
right.
Um, and that old Irish charm always works. But this last trip was amazing. It really was. I was nervous going into it because it was 19 people,
Oh,
and it was,
19. Oh,
I
that's a
cut it, I cut it off at counting me, it was 20. I cut it off at 20 because I just couldn't handle a group bigger than that. I didn't want a vehicle that was any bigger. And I
right.
didn't want, because that doesn't go everywhere in Ireland because the
Yeah,
streets are so narrow. I mean, they get it in there, but I don't know how they do it. But I also it's just more chaotic. It's less attention
right.
for different people the bigger the group got. So I said, cut it off at 20. I said, cut it off at 16, but then you then
I
I
know
let,
that.
but I'm so glad I did because the 4 that I ended up letting in were I don't know what the group would have been like without them. Everybody brought something different,
Oh,
you know?
wow. Yes, they do. Right.
So, and it was such a wonderful combination of people, they were all different. And it was just, 19 really great humans and the bus driver was amazing, which can make or break a trip. So,
Well, I think
uh,
especially in Ireland because the towns they're old, they're tiny, the roads, I mean, I was just in Ireland too, and it's like they are so narrow, and you get some cars parked along the edge. I don't even know.
I mean, we've done self-drive tours before in Ireland, and yeah, and it's the other side of the road. And yeah, well, if there is another side, because it's
Yeah,
really like one lane, to be honest. So, but in the country, you feel like you're playing chicken all the time. So,
right.
um,
Yes.
and in the city, you just don't want a car. You
No.
gotta, most of the time you got to be on foot. But yeah, I mean, but it was such a great trip. And you go into it being a little bit nervous about, are they going to love it as much as I am? Are they going to be disappointed? Did I do it justice? You know, because Ireland is one of those places that's just there's a magical element there that you really can't explain
Right.
until you
Yeah.
get there and feel it. Especially if if your bloodlines run Irish, on either side of the family. So, my driver said, he said, when people come here from America, because we have so many Irish Americans, and there's a reason they all keep coming. And he said they get here and they feel that connection, that even though this isn't my home and I've never been here before, I feel a sense of home here. And the
Right.
Irish people are so nice
Yes.
to Americans. I mean, it's like you hear, a lot of stuff, like about people not liking when Americans come and that kind of thing. And it's like, it's not like that. They're so welcoming. They're so warm. They're genuine. They'll tease you. They have no problem giving you the business.
Right.
But they're funny. They're
Oh,
very.
yeah, they have so much joy, really, for as
It's just disarming. Because
yeah.
they're not afraid to razz you a little bit too. But yeah, so the people, it was interesting to be the person that had been there a couple times, kind of see these people that they're like, I read about all these places from your books, and I can't believe I'm going to get to see them because it's so vivid in my head, and because a lot of them say, well, I would Google the places and all that kind of thing, but I just thought, but until you get there, boots on the ground. So it's different because it's all of it. It's the, they call it crack in
Mhm.
Ireland. So that sense of like fun and community, and it's almost like a hard word to define, because it's like not one thing. It's
Right.
like the combination of fun and friends and family and the community and a place and the music and and the drink, of course. But I remember the first night we got out of the city, and we went into and then we saw some ruins and things like that, and then we got to the West Coast, which is mainly
Oh,
where my books take place. And the first little pub we got into that was having a trad session, and it was like an ancient pub.
oh wow.
And so they're sitting there, it's this tiny little room, and it's two women, and the one's playing the squeeze box, and the other one plays the flute, but she also sings. And when she started singing, I just looked around at the women,
Right.
that were there, because it was 19 women and one brave man.
One brave man, yeah.
And he was there, he was right there with us. He was loving it. And they were like, and then she started singing, they were like, they were just stunned, because
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. But it was all of it. It was how old the pub was, and it was just the locals coming and saying funny things to each other and everything. And then she started singing like an angel. And it was like, for me, very satisfying to see them see it for the first time and hear it for the
Oh
first time,
yeah.
because their faces had nothing, and they were just kind of enchanted, and it was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that high for you too, that you were the one that kind of brought all of them together to this
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. And it was like, there was no separation between me and the other travelers. I mean, we were immediately like all friends, all joking around. There was like, yeah, I'm kind of the hostess, but I don't stand on ceremony at all. So we went right in, just like, we're all here traveling together, a bunch of girls, and we're having a good time. And Tom,
Right,
we were
yeah.
all, so I would say, okay, girls, and Tom. But it was awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm talking your ear off.
No, 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 I love it. So how many of these tours have you done?
This is my second one. The first one was kind of my trial, and I
Right.
knew several of the people on it. I had been stationed with them at different times or whatever. But I didn't know everyone, but I did know, some of them. And this one, I knew a few people, but most of the people were complete strangers walking into it. So, but it was half the size. So, and it was a different tour company, and it was a different driver, obviously. So, and it was great. It was a good trip. It was a small group for me to manage
Yes.
for that first time. And then when I went to double the size, and then we were cutting, we were turning people away because, but it's, I think that trial run was a good small group to kind of get my feet wet
Right. Oh, exactly.
and learn, like, for a tour company, what I wanted and what I didn't want. And so it just made it easier to do the next one. And because it was bigger, to just have done a few things, and what I would do differently and that kind of thing. So, but the tour company I worked with was really good this time.
Oh,
I mean,
nice. Yeah.
like, we had two people that came a day late because of flight problems, and
Yes.
all kind, and you're always risking hitting that snag,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is why, like, the day we come in, I stay in the same city near the airport. Like, we fly into Dublin because I want to be sitting there for a couple days if somebody's late,
Oh, of
or if
course.
I was
Yeah.
late,
Well,
my
yeah,
flight.
anything, right? Anything could happen.
So, yeah, so, we had that was the only snag we had. The tour company, the places we stayed, were better this time. They weren't bad,
Right.
the other tour company, but these were next level. They were very nice. These were, more like 4-star
Oh,
accommodation
wow.
places. So, and because the group was bigger, other than Doolin, which is the main setting of the books, we were in hotels. They're like nice boutique type hotels. They're not
Right.
like, giant Marriott's or something, but not that there's anything wrong with Marriott, but it's
Yeah, but it's just a different experience when you're staying in a more boutique, local, family
right.
run. They're going to do something a little bit more unique. Marriott, they're trying to provide the same experience kind of around the world, so it's
Right, right,
just a
right.
more corporate, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, but once we got to Doolin, she was trying to put us like in the bigger city near Doolin. And I said, we need to be able to walk to the pubs. This is the heart of these books.
Right, yeah.
These, this family is first responders and nurses and all kinds of stuff like that, but they're also musicians. Like they play the trad sessions and all that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to be able to leave and go. But Doolin is this little village. And I said, and she said, we're out of room. They're having a wedding that weekend,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
which is why we cut it off at 16 initially. And then I'm like, I said, well, we'll wait because people always cancel rooms.
Oh yeah, always.
See if we can get I'll put these 4 people on wait list. And so I said, split us up into bed and breakfast. And I told the people ahead of time, we're not going to all be together like we are, but you will get that like village bed and breakfast experience that you're not
Yeah,
gonna get at the other places. You're going to be in these people's houses.
yeah.
So, and I think that's an important part of Ireland to see because
Yeah,
I
I do too.
depend on that, and I don't like the driver has to be off duty at some point,
Yeah,
but we need to be close walking distance so that when he's driven all day, we can just go to the bed and breakfast and then go get dinner and then go to the trad session and be mostly on foot.
right.
Now, that said, age groups from early 30s to 92.
92? Someone was
I
92?
don't even know what we would have done without her because she was such she was amazing. And the bus driver called her Queen Bee, and she was absolutely. And she got around great, but he was always on call if she had an issue or anybody else, who was having mobility issues or anything like that.
Right,
He was there. He would never be far, but
right.
at some point he's off duty. So I said, we can't be in Ellis.
No,
Sorry, not Ellis, Ennis. We can't be in Ennis because that's 45 minutes away from Doolin. We're not going to be able to go. I realize that's got a nice pub scene too and everything, but we need to be in Doolin. So she put us all in. She split us up into 4 bed and breakfasts,
oh wow.
and and they're local guys. There's no Uber or Lyft.
Right, yeah.
If you're, a 10-minute drive, because we were kind of out, and spread out and stuff like that. And but there were local guys that all the bed and breakfast just had these like 6 guys' names.
Right.
Now that's the Uber, they give it to you on a little card. Here's the guys, and you call them, and they'll come and get you. They'll be, and they'll take you back to your bed and breakfast, and it's, €3
Oh
or something.
wow. Right, yeah.
So that nobody has to walk back from the pub at night on those little roads and stuff like that, even if it's not that far of a walk. So, I mean, I was walking distance, but privileges of rank. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
I knew the people I'd stayed with them before. And so, yeah, but it was, so she split us up and everybody got to be in a bed and breakfast. And there were people that had never stayed in a bed and breakfast before. So
Oh,
that was
really?
kind of cool because they're quaint. They really, I mean, if you run a
Yes.
bed and breakfast, you have to put your best foot forward, and there has to be, a little nook with reading, and there has to be a place to make tea, and the people are very personable, and or the word will get out and you're out of
Right,
business.
right,
So,
exactly.
because there's so much competition. But yeah, we were spread out, but everybody was happy with where they stayed. And yeah, I mean, we had a blast, and and some of it was just little stuff that maybe wasn't on the itinerary, but it was just little moments. And everybody, anytime they go anywhere and you see somebody that even will travel solo and take that like leap
Yes.
to do something like go on a trip with a bunch of people they don't know or something, they're always somewhere in their
Right.
life could be, you don't know what they're dealing with. Before this, my husband and I lost 4 parents
Oh my
in 2.5
gosh.
years. And I had a lobectomy. I had these weird, rare tumors in my lower lung, and they had to take my right lower lobe out.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I mean, like out of nowhere, I'm like healthy, never had any kind of cancer or anything like that. And now my husband's got cancer, like within the same year. So it's like, I'm looking up, like, are you done yet?
Yeah,
Can I
yeah,
get a
like
break? But my husband, who usually travels with me, said, leave this, I'm going to leave my space for another reader. And I'm going to let you do this on your own because you don't need me. And as much as I want to go, I think you need to have this be your thing. I think you need to go there without any distractions of feeling like you need to have dinner with me. You need,
right.
like you
It is,
need to.
it's a different kind of trip, and I know that too. Yeah.
So, but everybody on the trip was somewhere, you know. And so we walked down, we were in Glendalough, and they have these lakes, lock they call them. And this is where St. Kevin escaped into the wilderness to, do whatever St. Kevin was doing. And then he founded this monastery, and you could go through these ruins and everything. And there's these lakes, and it really does feel like a place of like a little bit of power. I felt like
Yeah.
you feel it.
Right.
Last time we were there, we jumped in the water.
Oh,
So
really? Oh, wow.
and I'm like, you know, I might have instigated it. And so we ended up walking back after dinner, and a bunch of us went swimming
Oh,
in the
wow.
lock, and it was so cold. A couple of people are like, I'll take pictures, but I'm not getting in that water.
Right.
The one guy went in. I'm like, because he's a Marine. If he sees all the females going, it's like, I'm not going to be the guy standing on the
No, he's
shore.
not. He's gonna
So,
jump in.
and then we're teasing him, like, come on, Tom, head under, or it didn't count, and that kind of stuff. But, and I remember a couple of the women, one especially, that was kind of floating there and said, I don't want to leave. I want to cry right now.
Oh.
Like, because this is exactly what I needed, and I didn't know I needed it. And some of, like we would talk about some of our favorite things through the trip and that kind of thing. And a lot of them said, that swim felt, it was like, because we're just floating in this ancient place in this,
Yeah.
well, I mean, because the view's not going to get any better.
Right.
Wicklow Mountains, Big Lock. It's absolutely stunning. We're just floating in that water like, this is a good swim, you know. But it was little things like that maybe weren't like planned on the itinerary,
Right. Yeah.
that you steal those moments that kind of make an impression. So but it was awesome, and some of the people are like, have fun with that. I don't get wet. I don't get my hair wet, and that kind of thing. They're just, not into it. But the women that, they got in there and they're like, yeah, I'm like, you're basically in a huge lock of St. Kevin's holy water. So, whatever you have going on right now, just let him heal it.
Right.
So, yeah, it was cool.
That's so amazing.
I
So
know, yeah,
do you think you
maybe we're being
inspired
all,
any do you think you inspired anyone to start writing something as well? Were these just
I
avid
did.
readers?
Somebody that had dabbled a little bit, she said, and she wrote me afterwards and said, I wanted you to know that, I'm going to start working on a book idea that I've had in my head, and you're very inspirational in the way that you've. And then I had people that were just, travelers that love the books. Some of them had only read once. I think one woman had never read, but she was with her sister,
Right.
and it was time for them, to do something together. And but yeah, I had one woman that said she started, I'm getting serious now. I'm gonna buckle down, and I'm gonna start writing. And then Tom, the only guy we had, amazing guy, read my first book. And he wanted to know all about the process. He had a lot of questions about that, like, okay, so, he just asked me questions about, do you outline, do you know ahead of time what's going to happen in the book? He wanted to know all of it. So very curious. So it was, and he was, because you think, okay, there's one husband going, is he going to feel like he got drug on a girl's
Right, exactly.
and a hint of that,
Oh,
you know,
nice.
so happy to be there. And he was with his wife and he was with this, and he was just, he had just as much fun, he's like,
Right.
I don't care if it's females or males, I'm having a good time,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I think, and what I tell to people that say, oh, I sometimes have ideas, that all you have to do is just start writing. That's how you become a writer. You're never going to be a writer until you start writing,
Right.
because it's an act. You can have stories in your head and have a good imagination, and nobody's expecting anybody to win a Pulitzer Prize with what they first, just do it because you want to do it. Don't do it for the sales. Don't do it for the recognition. Don't do it for anything. Do it. I grabbed the piece of sanity that I needed at a transitional time in my life. And I didn't do it because I ever thought I was going to be leading a trip to Ireland someday with people that love my books. I did it because I needed it.
Right.
And I love doing it. If I ever don't love doing it, I won't do it anymore. But and I love my stories. And it's not because I think I'm so great. It's because this is like, when you create a child in your body, it's the same as me creating a book in my head. It's not the same, but you know what I mean?
No, no, no. It is.
This
It's
is
like an artist putting paint to
a part
canvas.
of me,
It's a part
it's,
of you and it's a way of expressing yourself and just getting it out.
yeah. And the nice thing about writing is if I write it and then I'm like, I can delete it.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not written in the universe. So I can fine tune it until I do love it. But and the traveling is just a bonus, because for me, I have always liked books where the setting, I want to be able to picture it. I want to know what they're doing, what they're seeing, what they're smelling, what they're eating, what the buildings look like. And so, you can read books where it goes on a little bit too long about that, and that's subjective, but if it's to the detriment of like plot and characters and things like that. But I also liked painting a picture of like the village life.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I wrote one, because the cousin lived in Dublin and he was a police officer, when I wrote that one, I had to get Dublin street maps out, because that was more of a little bit more of a thriller. I don't do like classic thrillers, but I I want to get it right.
Right.
I want these to be actual streets in Dublin. And I want them, if they're in this area, I don't all of a sudden want to be giving, because I like the name of the street or something, be giving, because I want somebody if somebody from Dublin read this, they would be like, that's in a totally different part of the city. That's not right. So does it take longer? Yes. But if you can get it right, why wouldn't you? Is the way I look at it. So I've always used maps. I use travel sites. I use, restaurant menus, everything. It's like, if they walk into Gus's, what's their signature dish everybody loves? You know what I mean? Gus
Right.
O'Connor's pub in Doolin. They walk in there, what's the roast on Sunday going to be? That kind of thing. But because it's authenticity, I'm not advertising Gus's, though I should.
Yeah.
It's because if they read my books, they love them, they get inspired to go, are they going to go there and go, there's no Gus's here? It's like I want them to have feel like they're walking into a space they already know, and being like, oh my God, there's that and there's that.
Right.
Why the trip was fun. So
Yeah, it's taking that extra time to care about the whole outcome.
right. So yeah, I mean, it's been a journey.
Was the
But
first book quick to write then, or did it take just time?
it took time. It took a lot of time it was big. So an editor probably would have chopped it to death, but I don't know if you know, I'm an indie author,
Oh, okay.
completely self-published. I am not for my audiobooks. My audiobooks, I got approached by Podium Audio, and Tantor, but I chose Podium, and they did all the audiobooks. I signed a contract with them on a 9-book contract, and they did everything. Got me an amazing narrator, because I was like, okay with them not being an audio, even though I love audiobooks, because if you're not going to do that right, you really shouldn't do it. So it wasn't something I was prepared to take on myself, as far as like finding a narrator and all that kind of thing and trying to produce. That's out of my depth. So and then the audiobooks really, took off. So then that got me more, like, some of the people on my bus said I found them through Audible. Like, I'm an Audible listener. I don't normally read print or ebooks. I like audiobooks. And because some of them have long commutes and things like
Oh,
that. And
exactly.
so yeah, so that just added another layer of like readership for me, because they got put on audio. Um so, and then the one that takes place in Italy, they actually, Podium has a division that tries to acquire like movie and TV.
Oh, wow.
So when they started producing that one, the producers sent it to that department and said, I think you should take a look at this. I think this would be a really good movie. And so I have a shopping agreement with them, which all that means is that it's giving them the right to
Exactly.
shop out and try to find that.
Right,
So
right.
most of the time those come to nothing. I mean, but it's cute. It's fun to be
Yeah,
asked.
it's fun to be asked, right. And
Yeah,
then
I
that
mean,
brings up another question too with the audiobooks, then do they translate them into the other languages, like the Italy book into Italian or
no, they just do English, and they're exclusively Audible, because they dominate the market. So they don't, when you, a lot of times people will just do Audible exclusively, but yeah, I mean, my regular books have not been translated, so they didn't do it for the audio. But and my audience is predominantly American,
right.
although I did have an Irish girl. We were at the castle, because my last book that just came out has this castle on the cover because it's a historical. So we had tea at the castle the day the book came out. And I thought I was
Oh,
going to go Facebook Live and everything. We had no signal, couldn't do anything. But so I just had to take video and pictures and stuff
right.
and post it. But which is probably good, because then I wasn't distracted. But they let me go into the Earl and Baron's library, which is now a whiskey bar, because the people that work there were so sweet. They're like, okay, now pretend you're reading the book in front of the fire and that kind of stuff. It was really cute.
That is
Um,
cute.
yeah, but the like, right as we sat down to tea in this castle, this woman walks in and she kneels next to me. She's like, hi, my name's Louise. I talked to you on Facebook. And I'm like, oh. And she's like, I've been following your trip and everything, because I'm on and she's like, I saw you guys kind of went like dark. You weren't posting or anything. But I knew you were going to be at the castle today. And I said, yeah, there's no signal here.
Right.
For American phones anyway. And she said, so I just want to say hi. Oh, is that the book? And like, and so I took a couple pictures with her, because she wasn't supposed to be in there. They have people like, the
Well,
castle,
yeah.
it's a 5-star hotel. There's like guys in livery and stuff at the door. But I think she told them she was with us, and she just kind of she breached the perimeter,
Yeah,
came in,
she did.
and she stayed just long enough to not get kicked out, I think, because
Yeah.
the people were like, looking
Yeah,
like, who is
like
with that,
right, exactly.
we're like, pose with a picture with her and stuff. And then she was like, okay, bye. She
Oh
left.
my
I'm like, that was amazing because, that takes some cojones
yeah, no
to
kidding.
come into the tea room. So I was like, oh my God,
Well,
this
yes,
woman's
like you said, like in this castle with, servers and people that work there. Yeah.
oh, she's local. So she lives right in County Clare. So she was like 10 minutes away. So she's like, I thought, how can I not go over there?
Right.
Like, what you doing? And the people at the table, they're like, I'm like, come on, that was amazing. That took some guts. So it was cute.
That is
Yeah.
very cute. Oh my,
So and but yeah, it was fun.
oh, that's amazing. So do you have three books from your childhood that stuck with you?
Oh, yes. Let me think about this. Okay, so A Wrinkle in Time
Ooh.
by Madeline Engel. That was like a sci-fi kind of.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then Boxcar Children, obsessed. Thought that I wanted to run away from home, even though I love my parents very much, just so I could live in a boxcar with my siblings and gather blueberries and stuff. So we had food. I
Right.
thought, like, I just thought that was the biggest adventure. And that's a very famous book from I think, I want to say
It,
the 40s, maybe, or even
it
older.
yeah, it is, but it's to me it's kind of a classic.
It's timeless. And so is Wrinkle in Time, no pun
Yes.
intended. And then let me think. Books that stuck with me. I like Judy Blume.
Hmm. Yes, it's
It,
pretty amazing.
yeah. Even the naughty ones when I was older. What I thought was naughty. I mean, come on,
Well,
what I write
yeah, right.
now, same compared to what I write. But yeah, I'm trying to think. It's funny. I got to a point, and I swear this is what I blame it on. I got in a phase where I didn't read. And it was because, it was like teenage years where you would think I would be reading more,
Yeah.
but very social butterfly and stuff. And I got a TV in my room.
Oh,
And I kind of didn't realize that's what it was. And then it was like this little black and white TV, but I got a TV in my room. And then I remember my two stepkids, because we had full custody of them. I remember them being big readers, and all of a sudden I noticed a pattern of them stopping reading, and it was when we got the TV in their room. And so the next three kids still do not have a TV in their room because we don't have one. We read every night. And I thought, I'm not going to do that to them because it's a distraction. Now they have their phones, so they honestly do have a TV in their room.
right.
But we explained to them why they didn't, and my two daughters, my son's autistic, so he doesn't he plays with his trains, immature, his
Right, right.
but he's 14, but he's but the two girls are big readers, you know.
See, that's fabulous because we hear so much about the change with digital technology and all these distractions. But I see it too. I see when I go to a bookstore, there's a lot of younger readers. So it's like, oh wow, they're actually picking up a book that you can touch and feel. They're not all just reading
I
on
don't
their
like
screen.
digital books. My girls will not. We bought them Kindles, and it might as well be a paperweight. I mean, they can use them as tablets and stuff like that, but they want the paper. They want to hold that book in their hand, and they want it on their trophy shelf when they finish it so they can reread it when they feel like it. They love to read. And my middle girl, I mean, my oldest, my stepdaughter, is a huge reader now too. She went through that little phase where she wasn't, because we made the mistake of putting a TV in her room, but she came back to it just like I did.
Right.
And huge reader. So yeah. And I think, my oldest son reads too. Maybe not as much as the girls, but yeah. So but I'm trying to think of a third book that really, I mean, those are the two that stick out, but I think when I got back into reading, I would say a book that really pulled me in. Let me think. I read a book called Byzantium that was historical fiction that's not even in print anymore. It was this
Oh,
awful,
wow.
it was a very good book. But and it kind of got lost in that. And then that kind of sparked me reading historical fiction for a long time. And, of course I went on the Outlander train, love it. And, but, as an adult who got back into reading, when I was probably right out of college, there were a lot of like historical fiction that I really got
Oh,
into.
yeah.
That, and I always learned, if it was a good author that did the research, I always learned something from it, which I liked. Because I didn't have that classic education. I had criminal justice. So it was a lot of, like that geared towards that. Whereas, like my husband had a very classic education. He was ancient history, and, he in Greece, studied abroad in Greece on a dig site, for
Oh,
our
wow.
site, stuff like that. So he had that like really classic education background where I was like, well, I toured a prison. So, yeah, for extra credit. But so I think the historical fiction kind of got me back into that. Well, I'm learning something, about.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of good books do that for some of us as readers is, then we're curious, like, to know more about the place or, especially with historical fiction, like, did that really happen or where did they deviate or what was it, which I think it's great. It gets people back interested in something that they may not have gone and checked out.
Yeah. I mean, I love books that make me think, yeah, is that really, because I
Yeah.
just read one that took place in Cleveland, which is where I'm right now. I'm in a family home. But the during the time of the Cleveland Butcher, which was a serial killer that Elliot Ness was trying to bring down. And so Elliot Ness took down Capone. So, but then he ended up in Cleveland, and there was this serial killer. I think it was after World War One, so it was kind of in that. And it was a historical, there was a romantic element to it and stuff like that. But, then it made me look up like who the suspects were actually during this time. And it was like, she really did her research. And because I'm from Cleveland,
Right.
like you can tell, I know exactly where she's talking about. I mean, you could tell she had a street map out, which is what I love. That's what
Yes.
I do. And I expect that from people if they're going to make the setting a real part of it. If that's a big part of it, then you need to you need to get a street map out, and you need to know where you're going, and you need to know what was there at that time period, and things like that. So, was this factory even open then, and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Right.
but it was cool, and it's, so I try to do that too. But and that made me want to look it up. And then
Exactly. It
oh
peaked.
my God, that guy it was like a congressman's brother, and he was the main suspect, and that kind of thing. And it was cool to say, yeah, she really did her homework, but she kind of took it a different way to like what happened behind the scenes, that he was never caught because he kind of was, but they let him go and that kind of thing. And it's like, wow, did that really happen? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah. So I don't need to travel to Cleveland because, I come twice a year, but that might make someone want to travel here someday, and people that are into true crime and that kind of stuff. So I think books are powerful that way. But, and I think that traveling is one of those things that most of the time you're never going to start with it.
Right. So do you plan to lead another trip back to Ireland for your readers?
Yeah, I mean, not right away.
Right.
They're like, so when's the one next year? Like, I can't do that every year.
Yeah.
Because it's there's a cost element for me as well. So but the my daughter's studying abroad in the spring, in
Oh,
Ireland.
nice. Oh,
So
wow.
she was little when she went, and she said, I want to go back and really see it because I barely remember it. We were young. And like certain things made an impression, but like talking about 5 months on the West Coast, I'm like, girl, do it, because
Yes.
um, she was with us during the lockdown. It was rough during high school. And then, she went 2 years to community college, commuted, and she's just such an asset in the household and everything. But I'm like, this is your time to go spread your wings and go away to a 4-year college. She did the 2 and 2 and she's transferring and really, and I want you to study abroad. I think
I
it's
think
very
that's
important.
fabulous.
Her dad got a lot out of it. I never got to do it. And, I knew kids that did it and I was so jealous, but we just, my parents, we were first generation college. They didn't have the money to, I mean, we graduated debt free, which I will never be able to thank them enough for.
Oh, exactly.
It was now the university my daughter goes to, 70% of the kids study abroad.
Oh,
It's very
wow.
big at this college, which is one of the reasons she picked it.
I think that's amazing. That's incredible. Because, like you, same thing. My family couldn't afford to, I was thankful as well to get through college debt free, but beyond that, and to this day, it's like I had art teachers that did art, for the summer abroad, and I so
Now we're
wish.
studying abroad. We're
Yes.
just we do what we want.
Right.
So, but yeah, she'll do an exchange probably at NUI Galway.
Oh,
So
nice.
Ireland. She'll be there for 5 months and she wants us to come and see her. So we said, we'll come during your sister's spring break because she'll be in college as well. And then she said, you got to bring George, the 14-year-old. She said, don't you come here without my brother because I need to see my brother.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So, it'll be a different trip because we'll probably rent cottages or something, along the way because it's when you're dealing with 5 people
Oh, yeah, exactly.
and 4 of them are adults, um, you end up having to get 2 rooms or something, you know what I mean? It's
Right,
like, I think
right.
it's going to be better to, pick a few areas to go that we've never been before and
Oh, nice.
rent Airbnb type stuff.
Yeah.
Or I mean, when 4 of us were traveling together, we got an Airbnb in Belfast and where else did we get one? Dublin
Oh, really?
in the yeah, because the hotels are really expensive in Belfast because they're on the British pound.
Right.
They're not on the euro and everything's more expensive. So we rented somebody's flat, you know, and 2-bedroom flat and just hit the grocery store and got some good Irish butter and a baguette and, like some apples and stuff like that. And just kind of, so that we just had some snacks and stuff. And then we rented a converted barn in Donegal
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
cottage that had a beautiful view, like in the country in Donegal. And we just hit the grocery store somewhere on the way there. And we just made like pasta with,
Yeah.
just very simple meals.
Right. Yeah.
Because we had our times where we would eat out and it would be really nice places, and then there were times when we were just trying to hit like something kind of natural site, it was about the
Yeah.
land like that, so we just eat for sustenance at the Airbnb and go go exploring. But
Right. Yeah, exactly.
the there's beautiful, and then we hit Iceland this time we hit Iceland on the way home. But I don't know if you know Iceland Air, you can do those stopovers. So
No,
if you
yeah.
fly Iceland Air on your connection to Reykjavik, you can stay.
Oh, nice.
Like stay anywhere from 1 night to 7 nights.
Wow.
And it doesn't cost you any more for the flight. And then it's just like a really long connection.
Right. That's kind of nice.
And then go back in a couple days and get on your plane. And so 7 of us did that on the way home from Iceland. But, sometimes it's not about, the museums and sometimes it's about like walking
Yeah,
and
just
going to see
experience.
naturally beautiful and that kind of thing. And having had spine surgery 4 years ago, it was like 3.5 years ago. And it was really rough. The recovery was awful.
Oh gosh, yeah.
With like some really, really, really bad neuropathy, like lose your mind type of pain. And, coming out of that, because I remember thinking when I was there, because I'm a traveler, I like to hike, I like to go see things. I like to ride horses.
Right, yeah.
I like to do these things, and I like to play with my children and all that. And it's like I'm sitting there thinking, like, I can't sleep, in agony, thinking, what if I never get to do this stuff again? And like sobbing in the middle of the night in the living room because I kept waking my husband up because I was in so much pain that I would just whimper.
Right. Oh yeah.
Heartbreaking for him because he couldn't do anything. So I remember, so we went to Iceland and we rode horses in Vik on those black beaches, those volcanic beaches,
Right.
Icelandic ponies. And I just thought, this is it. I'm back on a
Yeah.
horse. Because that was one of the things I thought about is maybe I'll never be able to travel again. Maybe I'll never be able to do this and this and this, and I'll never be able to hike. I'll never be able to. So every time I do something that was on that like self-pity list,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I got on that horse and I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good day. This is a pretty good way to start,
Yeah.
I think it was Ronald Reagan that said something about nothing's better for the inside of a man than the outside of a horse. And so like, and that sometimes you won't see something in quite the same way as you will if you're on horseback. Because I remember going up into being up above the timberline in Colorado, like just
Yeah.
looking at, like all these peaks and everything on a horse, because there's no way you could get up there
Yeah,
otherwise.
right.
A full day of walking. And so I remember being in Iceland thinking, this is it. I got back on a horse.
Yes.
So
Oh,
it
that's
was a pretty
fabulous.
good way to start.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was a fun thing we did in Iceland. But we kind of added that, because I was like, okay, well, you can fly Iceland Air into Dublin and it's a good price and
That's a great tip for people.
hop
That
on the way.
layover, yeah, like that stop
Yeah,
in.
I mean, on the way to England or Norway or anything like that, you can stop and, Iceland's, the food was, it was a whole experience as well. They love fish in every
Right.
form.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because it's a natural resource for them. Other than that, it has to be brought in. But yeah, I mean, like really friendly people, amazing. They all speak English.
Right.
I mean, it's not their first language. I didn't meet one person that didn't speak English. It's taught in their schools. Very just nice, friendly, helpful, intelligent, nice people.
Right.
From the beginning, even the customs guys, you go through immigration with your passport, all of them, so nice.
Oh, wow.
Because sometimes, you go through immigration and they're like, why are you here? They're
Right.
trying to be
Yeah,
tough guys.
exactly.
See if they can rattle you. I think it's fun. Or,
Yeah, I
maybe
think
they tell them, the Icelandic guys are like, so where are you going?
oh my
They're so
gosh.
nice.
Oh,
And then I
wow.
got TSA hold, to like do the full swabbing on my underwear and
Oh,
everything.
jeez. Oh,
And
God.
the guy was so nice. He was like 6'5", probably, with a ponytail. He was adorable. And he's like swabbing. I just got a swab in here. And he's like, you're a really good packer. I'm like,
Oh,
I know.
right.
It's those packing cubes. They're
Right.
like,
It's right. Exactly.
he's
Wow.
like, do you know? I'm like, they're in that one.
Yeah.
And you said that. He's like, you're a really good packer. Thank you. I
That's always a compliment, right?
Well, I got those cubes. There's my advertisement for the day.
Yeah.
Because then it was like my luggage vomited,
Yes, I know, right? It all like
and I would just have to
yeah,
like a
squish it all back together.
oh, yeah. So the keys are a game changer.
Well,
But
this has been fabulous, Stacey. Thank you so much. Tell people where they can find your website, your books, all of it, if they're not
oh, okay.
familiar. Because some
My books
listeners,
are on most of the platforms. They're on iTunes, Kobo, Amazon, obviously, Barnes and Noble, and then www.staceylreynolds.weebly.com is my website. And I have a little blog on there that I'll pay attention to every once in a while, but usually when I'm writing books. So
right?
I
Exactly.
neglect my blog sometimes, I'll admit it. And I have social media and stuff. It's just Stacey Reynolds. I don't have a pen name. So but yeah, thanks for inviting me. I hope it didn't.
Yeah. No, no, this has been wonderful. So thank you very much. And I'll add the website to the show notes for listeners that haven't read your Ireland books and the other books and check out
Very
what's,
good.
I'll be excited to follow up and see what's happening next. So thank you so
Yeah.
very much. It's been wonderful.
Good luck. I looked at your blog and I was enjoying it. So it's
It's
very good.
slow. It's like you said, it's like it gets set aside for a while. And
Yeah, yeah, but it's a labor of love, like you said. So very good. Well, good luck.
all right, take care, Stacey. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.